Hello there, this is Instructor Paul, and in this lecture, I'm going to be showing you how you can manage your new ITF Core 01 server. If you remember, this is a server operating system that is using the Core edition of Windows Server. Now, logging in and just using the PowerShell or the command prompt interfaces is only so useful. It's easier to use the GUI, right? Well, since that server doesn't come with a GUI, you can manage that server from another server that does have the graphical user interface. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And here under the computer name, we can see I'm logged into ITFDC01. We could add this server under any of the other servers, but I'm just going to choose this domain controller. So the way that we do this is we click under all servers. Now we can see that we only have ITFDC01 listed here. Let's right click on all servers and choose add servers. So under the location, my location is going to be IT Flea. I'm going to click find now. We could search for, particular operating systems. I'm not going to do that. Here we can see ITF Core 01 is listed at the bottom along with all of our other servers. Now I'm just going to click the right arrow here and it allows me to place this computer under the selected computers. So itflea.com, ITF Core 01. Now if I click OK, we can see that this server is now listed under all servers. Now, if I right click on the server, I can change the manage as. And what this allows me to do is specify the user account that we're going to manage this computer with. So I'm just going to set this to administrator. And I need to specify that it's a domain account. So I'm going to say at itflea.com because I don't want this computer to try and use the local administrator user account. So I'm going to type in the password for that user. And I'll say remember me and I'll click OK. All right, so the manageability is now in progress and then it's done. Okay, so if we right click on this server, we can do a number of things. First, we can add roles and features. So if I drag this over, we can click next. We can say the installation type, as always, role-based or feature-based. We'll click next. And now we have an additional option in the server pool. Instead of just ITFDC01, we have ITF Core 01, which is the new core server that we just created. Now we can click next and we can see the server roles that we can add to this server. Now you might notice that this list is a little bit shorter than what we're used to. If we go back, for instance, and click on ITFDC01 and click next, well, you can see that we have quite a bit more options. Not a ton, but there are definitely some more options that we don't have on the other server. So that's just one thing you got to keep in mind is that the core edition does not have the exact same number of roles that you can install in it, but the major ones are there, like Active Directory Domain Services. We have the DHCP, DNS, file and storage, host guardian or Hyper-V if we're running VMs. We have remote access, remote desktop, the IIS, volume activation, which is great if you have, Windows 10 computers on your network. Say you have 1,000 of them, you have one license key installed on the server, and it will activate all of your Windows 10 operating systems across your network. Then we have Windows Server Update Services. So you can see that the major ones are listed here. If we click next, we can see all the features that we can install on the server, just like we would on any other server. So it's a lot easier to manage it this way versus the PowerShell interface. So if we close out of this, one thing I want to show you is that if we right click on this, we can actually open a remote desktop connection. Now this doesn't give you a GUI on the server, but it allows you to get to the console of the server. So if I select this, it's not going to work. And that's because the firewall hasn't been open and we haven't set up a rule allowing remote desktop services. So the way we can fix that, I just want to demonstrate this because this is good for you to understand. Let's right click on the computer and let's choose Windows PowerShell. And it's going to ask me to type in the password for the account we want to connect with. And I'm just going to type in that password now and I'll click OK. So now we can see that we're logged in. We have a PowerShell session with itfcore01.itflea.com. So now we can enter PowerShell commands and it will be executed on that server. Just like ipconfig, we can see that we're getting, this is being executed on the local server and we're getting the results from that local server. So what I want to do is I want to enable remote desktop services just as an example. So the way that we can do that is by using the set-item property. And I'm going to press tab to autocomplete that. And we're going to say the path is hkey lm. And then we're going to type in :/system. And we're going to do \current control set. And those are uppercase letters for each word, all one word. We're going to do \ again. We're going to say control, another \, and then we're going to type in terminal server. And then we'll end the quotation marks. So you'll notice there's a space in between terminal and server, and they have an uppercase letter for each word. Now we're going to do space and a dash name with a capital N. And the name is going to be F deny TS connections. And I'll end the quotation marks. And we're going to say dash value is 0. So just as a recap, we have set item property. Then we have the path, and this is a registry path. And then we have a name for the value, or a name for the key entry, and it's going to be F deny TS connections, and the value is going to be 0. So now if we press enter, so now that command is executed. So the last thing that we need to do is open the firewall, and we can do that with enable dash net firewall rule, and press tab and autocomplete. And we're going to say display group, and then in quotation marks, remote desktop. Oops, need to get that O in there. Press enter. And now the firewall rule has been enabled. So in theory, we should be able to connect the remote desktop now. So I'm going to minimize this PowerShell session, and I'm going to right click on the server, and I'm going to say remote desktop connection. And we can see right away, we're getting a prompt to enter the username and password. I'm going to go ahead and type that in now. And I'm going to click OK. So now it's securing a remote connection, and this generally takes just a little bit longer than you normally expect. I don't know if it's just because it's the first time we're connecting, but it seems like when I'm connecting to the server core through remote desktop, it takes a little bit longer than it normally would. So we just need to wait for this to finish, and then it's going to pop up. Okay, so here's a remote desktop thing. So if I pop this open to full screen, we can see that we're logged into the server, and we could do sconfig.cmd, and we can configure the operating system just like we did at the console. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this core IT flee, and I'll close that remote desktop session. So that is an overview of how you manage server core. I hope you found this lecture useful, and I'm looking forward to making more lectures on this in the future. Great job, and I'll see you in the next lecture.